afternoon. It is Friday, September 28th.
How's it going today? It's Edward Silverscreen.
Along here with Johnny Real, and it is episode 4. Everything is about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre this week. And, Ed, how you doing?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Just, been working, having fun. How about yourself?
Not too bad.
Good deal, good deal.
Work, sleep,
research,
shitting. So how are things been? You seen anything good lately? What was on your watch list lately?
Yeah, I actually went to the drive-in on Friday night and seen The Nun and The House with a Clock in Its Walls. The Nun, I think, it was decent. It just let down some of the thoughts that I had going in initially, but I can still see it as a decent movie. I think I might try a second take of it.
Overthought about it?
A little bit, yeah. I might try a second take of it and see maybe if that's just better. But the House with a Clock in Its Walls was certainly pretty good for me. I'd recommend that. It's kind of a family one. Not really any cussing, not really any gore, not really too much slapstick comedy. Still had a pretty good story, pretty good plot, definitely decent actors.
Was it too long? Did it seem like it dragged?
No, it didn't seem like it dragged at all. I definitely would recommend.
Usually some of those Nickelodeon type Jack Black movies, sometimes you're afraid that they might be a little too long.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy Goosebumps, and
I'd definitely maybe even put it over that for
really?
that matter. Yeah. But yeah, definitely for family recommendations, I'd take a kid to see that easily.
As far as me, nothing at the theater. Didn't see anything too new, too crazy. My recent purchases consist of Ocean's 8. That's on my watch list.
Oh yeah.
Jurassic World 2 is on my watch
There you
list.
go.
I haven't seen any of those yet, so. But I recently did watch the original Last House on the Left.
Oh yeah.
And that movie kind of traumatized me.
A little shook.
It was weird. One of those movies that you really feel uncomfortable watching, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, because just that franchise in itself is kind of an uncomfortable watch. It's kind of. Have you ever seen The Descent?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that one. Those
I Spit on Your Grave.
Monsters.
I think is kind of.
Ooh.
Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard things.
Yeah, I Spit on Your Grave is that. It's kind of uncomfortable to watch as well. Other recently watched things is currently just binge watching the hell out of The Big Bang Theory.
Oh yeah, always a good series. I mean, if you're up for a little bit of a...
In a week, I have finished 5 seasons.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, definite binge watch right there. But yeah, if you just like, kind of stupid comedy mixed in with a bit of a truly smart comedy too. Like, they have both yin and yang right there, if you will.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people that dog it because they don't understand the jokes, and I'm not as intelligent as they come, and I still understand most of it.
You ain't got to be a rocket scientist to understand some comedy. Just have an open heart and an open sense of humor.
I recently did touch up on the 2003 version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which we're covering the original 1974 version today, so we might get in detail on a little bit of both.
Right.
Movies. Any interesting trailers that released this week that you're interested about? I did see the new Bumblebee trailer.
I was about to say just the Bumblebee, Goosebumps, the new one. Not really any that are brand new to me. I mean, they had the Halloween trailer in Before the Nun, but I've seen that a couple times now, so can't wait for that, to be honest. Cannot wait. Gonna actually try to do a Facebook Live video of before and after reactions. Not necessarily a spoiler video, so don't worry too much about that. But definitely a before and after, like what we think we might expect, what we think might happen, and all that. And I've got a couple little things that I think might happen, but then again, I could be 100% completely disproven with that, and it just comes out of left field and sideways for that matter. But we'll try and get that roughly here within the next probably at least couple days of the release.
Right.
So
our next show was going to be Halloween, which was going to drop a week from today.
I cannot wait for that. It should be the 5th of October. Oh man, that one's going.
Was going to be the 5th of October for Halloween, but with the new Halloween coming out just a few weeks after that.
All right, yeah, definitely.
I can see us doing maybe a double week of Halloween back to back.
That'd be pretty cool. I mean, honestly, I cannot wait.
We'll touch up on the original Halloween, and then we'll go see the new one, and just share both stories on that Halloween day.
I mean, honestly, like I know we've seen it.
That one will say spoiler alert because we are going to cover.
Yeah,
the movie.
Definitely. But I mean, like I know we both have seen it multiple times, alone and together, for that matter. But I can't wait for that. I cannot wait for that Halloween episode for us to even record it, because I mean I've already begun research on the thing for that matter. So yeah, definitely excited for that episode. So yeah, any other ideas that anybody could put out there on the Facebook page, just let us have some random whatever have yous of whether it be Halloween or killer movie enthusiast or anything. Like, we're looking for ideas.
Right. Yeah.
Even
because we only have 4 weeks left of October. We only have 4 shows left that's going to cover horror movies, and then after that,
going to switch gears a little bit.
We're done with some horror movies for a bit, and
yeah, don't want to burn ourselves out too much on.
And I don't want people to think that those guys are that's that horror podcast. No, we're not a horror podcast. We're all about movies, good movies, bad movies,
funny movies, crime movies. It don't matter.
It doesn't matter what we're going to cover. We're just not going to stick to just horror movies. But like he said, there's a poll up right now on the 2 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies that I watched. That we're going to cover the original one today. But what do you prefer? Have you seen the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Have you seen the 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Or have you even seen some of the different variations of it, like Next Generation? Or
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Leatherface, the third one. The new Leatherface that came out last year when he's a 14-year-old boy. Or have you seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning, which is the prequel to the one with Jessica Biel in it?
Right.
Or there's Texas Chainsaw, the 3D one that came out, like, I think in 2013.
Oh, yeah, there's tons of them, like probably 8 or 9, easily, for that matter.
But on the poll, it asks for you, do you prefer the 2003 remake or the original 1974 version? That poll is up. By the time you hear this, the poll would be taken down, and the results are up now as we speak.
It's pretty much Marilyn Burns versus Jessica Biel, basically.
I know who wins that one.
Hey.
But believe it or not, the 2003 one was produced by Michael Bay.
Oh, which is kind of a big name to throw into almost any mix, for that matter, whether good or bad for that.
Michael Bay always gets a lot of bad rap, and people are like, oh, Michael Bay's doing it, I'm not going to go see it. Those people are the same people that say that DC movies are worse than Marvel. Whatever.
I just think DC has a little bit of time to catch up, which, don't get me wrong, if Aquaman is anything like the trailers, I think they might be sprinting, catching that Usain Bolt speed coming back up to him.
Aquaman is going to be... I think Aquaman is going to be fine. It's going to be just like Justice League, Batman vs. Superman, and Man of Steel.
Right.
It's going to come out. It's going to make the money. It's going to get the shit reviews. And then these fans, in parentheses, because they're not fans to me, they're going to sit there and say that, oh, it's 10 times worse than what Marvel could have done with it. Yeah, but it's not a Marvel movie, so don't compare the two.
Right.
If you're going to trash on Batman vs. Superman for character development or whatever your issue is with that movie, then bash Marvel for doing the same thing sometimes. They're going to bash a Flash movie because it's too funny. Well, ladies and gentlemen, have you not seen Thor Ragnarok? There was a lot of laughs in that.
Don't get me wrong, Thor Ragnarok was a really good movie, too.
But was it not...
It was kind of a slight slapstick.
Right.
Like a very comedic, but in a way serious. It kind of, to me, honestly, rejuvenated the character of Thor. Because, don't get me wrong, Thor Dark World was alright, but it kind of was a stale. And a lot of people have actually said it was a stale movie.
The first 2 Thor movies were stale, but like when it comes to your point exactly, it was a fresh take for Thor. But if Superman comes out with a little bit lighter movie like that, DC's getting trashed on.
Or even really a lot darker. I mean, it was too dark. That's not the original Superman. That's not real Superman. Because, I mean, that's even like talking about Superman for that matter. the possibility of Henry Cavill not wanting to do it anymore, and a big name coming in, Michael B. Jordan. That's a huge little take.
If he does it, he's going to get scrutinized just like Henry Cavill did.
Right.
And it's not their fault. Like,
he's a damn good actor. I mean, he played Killmonger to a T. Like, you literally can't down the guy for that. I mean, first one I ever heard him in was That Awkward Moment with Zac Efron. And I mean, don't get me wrong, he kind of played that smirky frat boy kind of deal pretty well. And then when heard of him in several different movies, and then he came to Killmonger, which I'm not saying he's a trash actor in any of the other movies, but he played Killmonger amazingly. Like, that was a perfect villain for the debut of Black Panther, and that made it just even more so for that movie. He made Chad Bosewick even better of an actor, because Chad Bosewick had to come in and work with him and get up to his level. That wasn't easy.
I'm not saying he's not gonna do a good job. He'll do a great job at whatever he does. But the fact that they even have to look for a new Superman because of these fans continuing to trash on these DC movies, on these DC characters, guys, shut up. After 25, 30 years, you finally have all these superheroes on the big screen like you wanted. Yeah. You're paying for the ticket. Go watch the movie. And if you don't like it, why continue to go watch the movie? And if you continue to bash every single DC movie you go see, just don't watch it. Because guess what? If you keep harping on the movie, if you keep saying that you don't like it, or if you pick out the things, if you hypocritically pick out things that you don't like about DC movies but you like about Marvel, then it's over from there.
It's kind of like Marvel sees dollar signs being raked in. They kind of don't care. I mean, honestly,
the end of Infinity Wars was pretty dark, but did you hear anybody say anything about that? No. Other than, man, my favorite character. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Nobody was bashing The Dark Knight when it was too dark. That's what you wanted as the Batman movie. Now that you have it again in Batman vs. Superman, now you want to trash on it. Now you're saying it's too dark.
Honestly, I'd like what the hell happened with Joker and Robin? Like, that's what I wanted. Like, I would love to see that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know Ben Affleck is having his personal issues right now, but I don't mind him as I would want to see him as what happened with that? How did is it the same as the Killing Joke? Is it what is it? You know what I mean? That happened to Robin. Why is it? And who was the Robin? Which version?
It was a Jason Todd Robin.
Oh, Jason Todd. Yeah, okay.
That's the Jason Todd Robin that you see. The suit that you see in Batman vs. Superman is the Jason Todd Robin that the Joker had killed.
Gotcha.
And then Batman had busted it in his teeth, which is why he has the grill.
And then
Batman doesn't
tattoo
kill,
on the hand.
Right.
Man. Which, don't get me wrong, I don't mind Jared Leto. He kind of brings more of a gangster side to Joker, which is a little odd to me, because Joker's not truly a gangster, but then again, it's kind of a little fresh take. Which, have you seen, talked about Joker, have you seen Joaquin Phoenix's makeup for Joker?
Yeah, it's not the official final makeup, but it seems like that's going to be his makeup for when he portrays a clown before he is the Joker.
Right, and don't get me wrong, that seems crazy enough.
So, and if that's going to be that's more of a Killing Joke prequel, as you will, so that kind of ties into the same thing. But this kind of talk is what we're going to get into probably in the month of November.
Yeah.
I know we're going to cover some DC movies in November. Here with a little bit of movie news for you, as it seems. Has everybody seen the new trailer for Bumblebee? Have you seen the new trailer?
I have. That was one of the trailers just before the House with a Clock in its Walls. And, I mean, honestly, it looks pretty good. Kind of a fresh take on possibly what Bumblebee came from.
So we're gonna play a little teaser here for you.
We've got one shot at this, and I need the best team.
We'll have to edit this out. So there was the first teaser, at least, of Bumblebee, and in this new one that they showed out and that they finally sent out, Optimus Prime sends a message to Bumblebee. So, what do you think about it?
Truthfully, honestly, a little bit to me was like a kind of a Herbie throw, like a Herbie mention, because the Bumblebee, the Volkswagen Bug. So I mean, that was kind of a cool little gesture to what the character is, essentially a bug. But no, and then I think wasn't it like when he first came in Transformers, he was like a Z28, like a old school like 70s Z28 Camaro, and then he he popped two wheels and was turned into like a 2010 Chevy Camaro or something like that.
Not too familiar on it. Like we'll touch up some bases on it when we get closer to it. But as far as the new trailer goes, like, I'm actually excited to see this one.
Oh yeah, I mean, it looks like it's going to be cool. So go from there and have, I don't know, extremely high expectations, but go with an open mind and see what it does. Simple.
Other news: James Bond finally found its director.
Oh, there you go, another James Bond coming out.
Yep. Star Wars producer Gary Kurtz has died at 78. He had died of cancer at 78. His family had issued a statement. Also, I think it's kind of funny, not that, but Jeff Bridges approves of a Big Lebowski remake only if he was in it.
I mean, I could definitely see that, like a little cameo or even, a bit of screen time, because, I mean, you gotta give a little dap to
He's the
OG.
dude. He's gotta be in it.
You gotta give a little dap to him.
Also, and this might be one of the...
Actually, one other big news I've heard is the It Chapter 2 has actually wrapped, which kind of crazy in my eyes, because it's almost a full year ahead. So if the editing and all that isn't done great, that'll be a real big surprise, because they actually, I mean, when you've got professionals like Bill Hader, Jessica Chastain, and James McAvoy, of course, like, you're gonna have a pretty easy time with it. But then again, they might be divas, I don't know. But yeah, they wrapped pretty dang quick. So I mean, literally, I cannot wait for that. Truthfully, I should get back on the book.
Yeah, with that being wrapped up, you would think hopefully we would get a sooner release date, but it looks like they're sticking to the September release date of next year. I
mean, I've seen some of the actual on-set pictures, and I mean, don't get me wrong, Bill Skarsgård looks menacing as ever as Pennywise. He is pictured on top of he's actually pictured on top of Paul Bunyan, which is in the book, of course, terrorizing the adults. So pretty sure we might get to see Paul Bunyan walk again. I'm not sure on that yet, but that'd be kind of cool, because it is in the book. But yeah, looking forward to the trailer for that matter, for that one.
And then touch just a little bit that the Captain Marvel trailer released this week, and
that one, oh man, I'm sorry, but when she just punched that old woman in the bus, that was, oh my gosh.
We were talking about this, I was talking about this with a coworker off record the other day, and think about how Wonder Woman did superhero movies for females, and that got praise.
Oh yeah.
How is Captain Marvel going to be praised now? Is that going to overdo Wonder Woman?
I mean, I don't know a lot about Captain Marvel for that matter, but yeah, I think it's going to do quite big on the aspect, because I mean, they've got, a lot of people are speculating with Shuri, they've got Gamora, they've got Nebula, they've got now Captain Marvel.
But this will be the first Marvel female in a lead role, at least in this decade.
Yeah.
Nothing to take away from Mrs. Affleck.
Right, and I mean, they might, with Elektra, of course, but yeah, they actually might have what is it, Black Widow coming up, and this might be a precursor to that, for that matter.
But yeah. I heard the Black Widow movie is going to be a prequel.
Oh, okay,
it's more of a backstory
on Natasha Romanoff.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know much about Captain Marvel either, but I do know that this is going to be a pretty big movie.
I mean, not to spoil much for anybody, but of course, like, you can look this up for yourself too, but apparently how she gets her powers is from a Creole, which is pretty much an alien, kind of almost like superpower race, almost like a Superman type alien, that somehow transfers his or her or its, I'm not sure, powers to her. And apparently she looks like she was already a pretty big military person, at least, for that matter. So that is strength and discipline right there in itself.
And that is a March 2019 release. So now, I mean, we covered up some news. We've covered up what we're going to be getting into probably next month, or after the horror season. Is going to probably be some DC movies. So most of everything is now about all today.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes our top 5. And our top 5 this week, kind of just going together, because there's not that many of them out there. But our top 5 is going to consist of, from what footage we've seen and what the movies we've seen, we're going to put our top 5 together and do our top 5 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. So, I mean, obviously there's not that many of them out there. I guess we can start off with 5. This definitely is not in order, but for us, this is least to
probably
best.
Most favorite, yeah.
So,
easily.
Well, we'll throw this in there. The only one you've seen is, you've now seen the original.
Right.
And you've seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation with
Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger.
Hook him out there for good old Matthew McConaughey.
In a Texas movie, for that matter.
Right.
But no, he actually, in that one, he played a pretty psychotic guy. Actually, my wife watched a little bit of the last half hour with me the last night, for that matter, and said that she did not understand how I could watch that. That she felt crazy after that because of just how the family was.
It's definitely an off movie. It's technically the 4th in the first 4 movies. Matthew McConaughey plays Vilmer in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation, and it's literally the 4th installment out of the first 4. So with that being really one of the only ones you've seen, what was your take on Next Generation?
I mean, the Next Generation kind of is an over-the-top one, for that matter. You know, they bring out that crazy hunting redneck family kind of deal, you know, the stereotypical thing. Hunter's knowledge from, you know, just good background, good old boy hunter, basically, with, you know, psychotic, just psycho.
Right, it's definitely the least favorite out of all the ones out there. I don't know if it's worse than Texas Chainsaw 3D, but it's out there. But like I said, that was the first of the 4, and to me, if we had to do this as a group thing, I would say 5 would come into me as Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Right. Okay.
That is a continuation of the 1974 one. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 came out in 1986, stars Dennis Hopper, and it literally picks up, not right after, but it is the actual second one of the original one.
Gotcha.
Number 4, if I had to pick, it would be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, and that is the remake. That is the prequel of the remake. So, and that one stars actually Jordan Brewster from
Jordana Brewster,
from Fast and the Furious. She's the survivor in that one.
Heck of a different movie for her.
R. Lee Ermey is also still in there as Sheriff Hewitt.
All Gunny.
So that's
the piece to that guy.
That is number 4 for me. Coming in at number 3, I will say, I'm going to say that it's going to be Texas Chainsaw 3D. It's not the best, but it picks up, supposed to pick up right after the original one. It starts off right after Leatherface doesn't catch.
Oh, it doesn't catch Sally.
Yeah.
Yeah. After
And
he
then
doesn't catch her and then goes on.
she goes and gets help, and the cops go straight to that house, and that's how that movie kicks off. But the timeline was a little off to me, so, and then really to me the best two, and to me the only two worth watching, is going to be the 2003 Texas Chainsaw with Jessica Biel.
Definitely respectable at that. I mean, honestly.
It didn't live up to the original, but it was, as a different movie, it was good. If you go in and just watch it as a horror movie, it's a pretty damn good horror movie.
There you go.
And then to me, I have to rank the original one as the best.
Yeah, I mean,
just because it's so
real,
and it's
like it felt grounded, very, very grounded.
Like you felt like you were watching something you were supposed to.
Yeah, kind of like you, just like a Blair Witch Project, like maybe not in that camera angle or camera aspect, but as in, yeah, just definitely having the, let's show some messed up home video from some backwoods redneck.
And it's funny that you said that, because director Tobe Hooper wanted to have that feel about it. Like, he wanted you to think that you're watching some behind the scenes footage of a family doing this to somebody.
Man.
So with that the first time you seeing that, that's pretty interesting that you pointed that out. So.
I mean, yeah, and I never knew about that, so yeah, that is kind of interesting about that. Truthfully, like, I learned a little bit more about Ed Gein and the kind of inspiration for this movie, for that matter, more than I actually did about a lot of the movie. Because kind of with me, the same things kind of kept coming up, and it always led to Ed Gein, which, I mean, of course, was more the inspiration behind this movie. Because the guy literally had lampshades made of human flesh. The guy was completely he didn't even have a rocker. He wasn't off his rocker. He didn't have a walker, for that matter. He was completely insane. So, when you got a belt made of human nipples.
I keep mine behind the closet.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. I mean, that's just completely, utterly insane. Which actually, I really can't believe why he wasn't executed, for that matter. Just, kind of wipe a person like that off the earth. It was a little insane to me that they actually let him go in an insane asylum, because he was apparently too insane to take trial.
Yeah. I think if it was something that would happen today, I think it'd be the same thing. He probably would have just gone straight to the loony bin.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the stuff that this guy did was absolutely just horrific, and something somebody should never see. And it actually wants me to bring to the special features on the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There were no special features on that disc.
Just commentary, basically, by the cast and crew.
And I ended up I have the 2014 4K restored version of the 1974 edition, and there was no special features. So I'm surprised with it being a 40th anniversary 4K restored edition. There were no special features to it, really. The special features that I did get was all on the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That one had a ton of special features. It had an hour and 15-minute documentary on the remake. It had a 30-minute documentary on Ed Gein. And then it had outtakes and sit-down cast reactions with each members of the cast. So that one had a lot of special features for me, and that was actually if you haven't seen it, I recommend highly going and getting it, or at least watching it or renting it. IMDb gave it a 6.2 out of 10. I just went ahead and gave it a solid 7. We're not going to spend too much time on the 2003 version, but you can rent it for $2.99 on Amazon Prime. You can buy it through the app for $8.99.
Oh, that's not too bad at all.
Or if you have Prime Video, it's free.
Oh, there you go.
So Prime Video, I think it's like $100 a year now.
Oh yeah, I mean that's not that much in retrospect. That's less than what you're paying for Netflix.
And if you have Hulu, you might as well just get Amazon Prime because they have most of the same content.
Exactly.
And you get more benefits with Amazon Prime.
Or even like you were pointing out with Vudu, for that matter, that might be one that's on there.
Yeah, that's true. As we looked that up, what was some of your thoughts about Ed Gein as far as some of the other stuff he had?
Well, I mean, he just... What's messed up is they can only connect him to 2 actual murders. Literally, they can only connect him to 2 actual murders, even though he had all these body parts and all that. He was actually a grave robber for a lot of it. Oh man, the guy was kind of on the other side of the realm as in human being insanity. He wasn't even insane, he was past insane for that matter. But the guy had a head in a burlap sack of Bernice Worden, had another head in a paper sack, like a grocery store sack. Which obviously the guy was smart enough to be able to clean and gut and clean a deer. So I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't know how to do that. So he must not be that insane.
No kidding. A lot of guys, like a lot of serial killers, and there's some documentaries out there. If you guys want to YouTube search some, it can be some pretty sick things. But going back to the Texas Chainsaw and Vudu, it's not on Vudu for free, but you can rent it for like $2.99 in HD. But I don't know how many times I'm going to say this, but you download Vudu for free, and literally you have movies on here for free like Saw 1, Saw 2, 3, 4, 5, Open Water, The Evil Dead, Child's Play, Nightmare on Elm Street the remake, Open Water, The Last Exorcism.
Oh, that was a good one.
You're Next, Return of the Living Dead. I mean, you have some pretty good horror movies on here. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. All these are free with just like a few ads. And it's the new Hellraiser Judgment is on here.
Oh, okay.
It's not free, but it's pretty dirt cheap. But even the original Grudge, the Japanese version, is on here. So there's a lot of interesting horror movies on here for free.
Night of the Living Dead, there's one.
You just have to
just watch a couple of ads. I mean, it's just like YouTube. You watch, 3-4 on a monetized channel and go from there. I mean,
and those are just the horror movies. I don't have enough time to literally go through all those other ones,
all the genres and all the movies. But yeah, actually, what's crazy about it, he was put in a mental institution from like 1971 or 72 all the way to his death in 1984, which he actually died of a respiratory disease. So a weird ending to a guy like that. Which what's messed up is that all the nurses and all the charges and all the doctors and all that were there said that he was an exemplary patient, said that he was polite, nice, well-mannered, all of that, which, I mean, don't get me wrong. To me, if a guy's able to do that, then he's not that insane. Like, he's just...
He knows how to play people.
Yeah, definitely. Like a violin.
Well, let's get ready to get into why we're here. And before we do, let's tell you that we are still on Facebook. We're still on YouTube. We're on Podbean. We are getting all the likes. We are getting all the views, all the downloads. For everybody downloading the show on Podbean in Virginia, Massachusetts,
New York,
Alaska.
Yeah.
We have a few in Texas.
Yeah, there you go.
New Hampshire.
And, of course, our home state, Oklahoma. We've got some there. Can't forget y'all.
So everybody who has downloaded the show, who's listening to the show, we appreciate you. We know you're out there. Let's give us some more likes. If you're listening to this in Virginia or Texas or New Hampshire or Massachusetts and you can't find us, we are on Facebook. Search us. Facebook, search Movie Reels. That's Movie, MOVIE, REELZ 405.
And y'all participate in any of the polls. Give us comments, feedback, on YouTube, Podbean, Facebook, whatever it is, whatever platform you like more, I guess you could say. go ahead and just give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you guys. I haven't been to the Northeast in probably 13 years, so great looking country out there, but haven't been out there in a while. But let us know what you think. Let us know, good, bad, what we could do better, what you might like to see, what movies you might want to hear. I mean, we're always accepting ideas for, around November, so Thanksgiving time, around Christmas, December, around even in the next year. I mean, we're accepting any ideas.
This thing isn't going away anytime soon. We are looking forward to continuing to do this every single week. We can throw up extra bonus show. We can throw up some extra content. We just want more interaction. We get more interaction, you're going to get more content, you're going to get more, you're going to get a lot more. But now that we are available on Podbean, we're available on YouTube, we're available on Facebook, and by the end of the month, we'll be available on Spotify.
Which that'll be a cool one right there, because I know a lot of people who still have Spotify for that matter. But yeah, like he said, just interaction, you'll get more action, simple as that. Not necessarily that we're not trying to give out there. We just would love to hear, anything you guys, like, dislike, what we should cut, what we could do more of, whatever it is. Love to hear it.
So, here is what we are covering today. It is the 1974 version of Tobe Hooper's original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
What happened was true. The most bizarre and brutal series of crimes in America. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even if one of them survives, what will be left? Texas Chainsaw Massacre. After you stop screaming, we'll start talking about rated R.
So there you have it. It is the classic. It is everything you don't really want to see in a movie. It makes you feel uncomfortable. It is directed by Tobe Hooper. It actually hit theaters October 1st, 1974.
So, yeah, actually title is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, simple as that. Everybody knows it, everybody's heard. If you haven't seen the movie, you've definitely heard of it. If you haven't heard of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you've heard of Leatherface, or you've seen a Mask of the Halloweens, or something. You know something.
I know more people that actually know it by Leatherface than Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That Leatherface movie, yeah, exactly. One thing I wanted to point out is in the 1974, one thing I noticed is that there was only one kill, by an actual chainsaw, just one. Most of it was actually done by a sledgehammer. Yep. As they talk in the movie, how they would, or used to, I don't know if they still do, don't know slaughterhouses at all, but how they would kill cattle to basically go to a slaughterhouse to be butchered. Hit them over the head with a sledgehammer, and if you did it right, one whack is all it took, and they're gone. Simple as that. But yeah, I noticed that the only person to be taken by the hands of a chainsaw, or the methods of a chainsaw, was the wheelchair-bound brother, and
which was Franklin.
Yeah.
Franklin was played by Paul A. Parterin. If I pronounced that wrong to you, I'm sorry if you're still alive. But yeah, it was directed by Tobe Hooper. Kind of original and gory, really wasn't mainstream for its time. The budget was literally only $80,000. That's all they had to work with. Stars Marilyn Burns as Sally, and then Gunnar Hansen as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Leatherface.
Actually, Gunnar Hansen was in a few of them, for that matter. He was in a couple of the different ones. Usually, I mean, you hear but yeah.
He was in those too, but his stature and his just the way he looked in the movie, the way his build was, he was legendary for that role. He was perfect for that role, and well after he passed in 2015 is when you start seeing all the anniversary dolls and collectible figures of Gunnar Hansen as Leatherface. But one thing I'd like to point out about the Texas Chainsaw, at least in it was banned in several countries. Like, you could not watch it in...
I mean, I can kind of see why a little bit, but dang.
It was pretty
Pretty gory.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't really gory, actually, because I really don't think, other than, like, the guy cutting himself, cutting the wheelchair-bound brother, and then, or Frankie, and then, the cut on Leatherface's leg. I don't really think there was much gore other than those 3 or 4 incidents right there at all.
There is a small little funny tidbit rumor about the film, though, that it's distributed by Bryanston Pictures, and since then I don't think nobody's really heard a lot about Bryanston Pictures, but it was owned by an Italian family, and a lot of people are saying that a lot of the money that was made for the movie, nobody really saw how much money was actually made for the movie because it just went straight into that family.
Because it was connected to
the mob.
Is
what people are thinking.
So, I'm not touching much on that subject, but that's the rumor. Simple as that.
His name is Edward. He lives... No, I'm just messing with you.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, with only an $80,000 budget, the number that they could find that was made at the box office for this movie was around $30 million.
Which is still pretty respectable for,
Now, we can't get a domestic or a worldwide coverage on that for some reason, but domestic-wise, it made about $30 million. And actually, it was said to be one of the best and most influential horror films in cinema history. And it was released and done edited just a year after the entire thing was filmed.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. Apparently, Leatherface was based on a real person that Tobe Hooper knew. Yeah. So, that's kind of crazy. Which actually, I know that the inspiration for the Texas, or not Texas, but the chainsaw part of it, was he was going to Christmas shopping. And basically saw a chainsaw and just thought, all these crowds of people, if I had that, they would scatter. They would leave me alone and let me do my shopping.
Yeah, that's one of the...
I don't think he wanted to hurt anybody, but just get out of the crowd for that.
No, yeah, that's one of the funny things they touch on base on the 2003 version of the movie. Because, again, the 2014 one was a 4K restored version of the film, which was released on Blu-ray, supervised by Hooper. So he was there. He re-edited the entire movie using the original 16mm A and B reversal rolls, which was, not too many directors sit there and re-edit an entire movie just for a 4K
update.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, Gunnar Hansen was not the original Leatherface.
No,
that's one of the funny things that I just pretty much found out. Actually, I haven't found it. Have you? The actual first cast person's name?
No,
I don't.
He was. I don't know if he was the first choice, but I know he's the only person that gets credited for Leatherface. Like, there's nobody in the cast or even uncredited as cast as Leatherface.
Apparently the guy walked out. Like, he basically, I don't know if he didn't align with what they were doing, didn't like it, or just different creative thoughts, but he just basically said, peace, see ya.
Maybe he couldn't breathe underneath the mask when he had to run and stuff.
Honestly, I wouldn't want to have the mask on. The latex one of it is kind of creepy enough, let alone, any worse for that matter. But I do know that they weren't actually going to call it Texas Chainsaw Massacre at first. And I didn't really put that together much, but in the movie, what's funny is the hitchhiker that they pick up keeps talking about head cheese, head cheese, head cheese, head cheese. Great meal. If you don't know what it is, it's great, delicious. They were going to call it head cheese at first, which just doesn't sound right at all. Ugh.
Well, the 1974 version definitely was the original, and it had a lot of films follow after that. They tried to do a second one called Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, starring Dennis Hopper in 1986. That wasn't too much of a sequel. IMDb did give it a 5.6 out of 10. That was followed by Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 in 1990, which didn't get any kind of love from IMDb. They gave it a 5 as well. Followed by the fourth installment, which was Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. That was given a 3.2 out of 10 by IMDb. After that, in 1995, they really didn't touch Texas Chainsaw Massacre again for a long, long time. They wouldn't touch it until 2003, when Michael Bay worked with New Line Cinema, and the rights to Texas Chainsaw Massacre came up. And who did they go to? They went to New Line Cinema with Robert Shaye. And if that name sounds familiar, Robert Shaye is one of the original producers of A Nightmare on Elm Street with Wes Craven. Robert Shaye is one of the original influences in doing Nightmare 2, Nightmare 3, 4, 5, and he was behind it all the way until the end. So Robert Shaye was at New Line Cinema, and they picked up Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which they went ahead and did the 2003 direct remake of the 74 version. And that, in 2003, that made decent money for horror movies. New Line Cinema was known to start doing more and more horror movies. They did the entire Final Destination movies.
Right.
And they did the remake of the Nightmare on Elm Street. They did all the other Nightmare on Elm Streets as well. And then the 2003 remake would be followed by the prequel in 2006, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which is the prequel to the 2003 version. And then they did the Texas Chainsaw 3D movie in 2013, which was supposed to be a direct sequel. That didn't work out too well. And then they did a smaller film called Leatherface in 2017, which was about the teen years of Leatherface.
Actually, touching on some of the actors, though, you would recognize Ed Neal, the hitchhiker who cut his hand open. You'd recognize him from something in a totally different aspect and light from our childhood, from kids our age's childhood. I know from mine personally, I was a big Power Rangers kid growing up, so of course Mighty Morphin. But literally, he actually played Lord Zed. Yeah, funny enough, which...
Did he do the voiceover, or
no,
was
he was costume, voice, and all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was pretty kind of weird, because I know they used a lot of the same shots from the Japanese version and just transferred it over, voiced over it and all that. But there was some things that he had to do because there was a little different versions. But he actually apparently had the most fun out of all the cast members at like the premieres and touring and stuff like that, because he liked to scare people out of the audience. He apparently thought it was hilarious. And now, actually, what's funny is the house, the original 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, has been turned to an actual restaurant. A barbecue restaurant of all things.
That's pretty funny.
That's kind of creepy to me. Which I know that they had like Gunnar Hansen in a documentary go to the house and talk about the movie and how, you know, it was weird because him and a few of the other cast members actually sat in the same room and had lunch or dinner or something like that, and hung out and were literally eating when he realized, oh, I'm on the other side of the table that I was as Leatherface, and he is on the other side of the table where I am. He was this person. He was going over stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then talking about the dinner scene, actually, that one apparently took a full day to shoot.
Oh, wow.
And the actual part where he nicks the Miss Burns' finger, Sally's finger, was real. That was actually getting cut. I don't know if it was actually blood that they put in Grandpa's mouth. But yeah, that was an actual cut on her finger. He had accidentally pressed it too hard, and there you go.
Wow.
So, yeah, a little weird.
A lot of interesting tidbits we find out about these movies the entire time that we've been doing them. It is just amazing how more and more, I thought I couldn't get into movies anymore, but it seems like the more we've been doing these shows, the more I get into these movies. But getting into the movie now, as the movie opens up, this is your first time seeing it, and as it opens up, the opening is really, really kind of just slow and eerie, and actually I don't think you get the first kill until about 25 minutes into the movie. So, and of course, the first one to go is, do you remember who the first one was to go?
The Kent or whatever, the boyfriend of, if I'm not mistaken, no, not Sally's boyfriend, but the other girl's boyfriend was the first to go, if I'm not mistaken, because he got bashed over, which actually is kind of a iconic kill for the Texas Chainsaw face, because that's when, wanders into the house, which today, I don't know, or even then, I don't know why you would just randomly go up to some out in the woods house and say, hey, I'm here, haha, I'm coming in. Just comes in and then, stumbles upon the ramp that leads into kind of, I guess, the butcher room, and he just, basically gets bum rushed by Leatherface, knocks him unconscious with a sledgehammer, kind of like they do the cows, and just, his body starts pretty much seizing up and flailing like a fish out of water.
A lot of those kills end up like that, and that's what makes this movie dark, unsettling to watch. But if you're a horror movie, that's what you appreciate more about this movie than any other movie, especially in today's kind of horror genre, just for the simple fact that, the kills nowadays are almost unseeable. And I hear it all the time in these PG-13 horror movies. It's better if you don't see the kill, because then that gets your mind thinking about what really happened.
Right.
And I can see that, and I can see them trying to reach a younger high school audience for the more money.
That and the different creative aspect of it.
But I still do enjoy some of your dark, gritty, unsettling, uneasy watching, horror movies, which almost now doesn't really exist. Some of them still kind of hang in there and do that, like Rob Zombie, but those movies don't get published very well. You don't hear or see any good reviews about them. But yeah, hitting Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's not like we can't sit there and, we can go scene by scene, which we're not going to do. We can sit there and try to defend it, which we're not going to do, because this movie really doesn't need any defending.
Not really, no.
Because it's one of those that is just, like, so classic. It's one of those that if you haven't seen it, like, you've been under a rock, or if it's just not your cup of tea, then why are you listening to this episode?
I guess I've been Patrick then. No, I'm just kidding. But one little thing that was kind of interesting was that he had 3 masks.
Yep.
He had the killing mask, which I don't really have to explain much. It was a killing mask. He had an old woman mask, which is kind of when he was helping around at the house. I think it had white hair with it, if I'm not mistaken, like a perm white hair. And then he had pretty woman mask, which kind of had some makeup on it, and he basically was dressing up for dinner, kind of the old southern thing. But I guess if you call it dressing up for dinner, but yeah, he had I think lipstick and eyeshadow and all that on it, so he did something. Better than nothing, I guess. But it was definitely a crazy watch.
That's what I enjoyed though about this movie is it's not very long, but you get everything you need in the final probably 30 minutes. And then some of the iconic images that this movie has created, some of the iconic pictures and sounds. that even the voiceover in the first few minutes of the news anchor or going over what you're about to witness, that to me to this day scares the living shit out of me.
Because I mean, honestly, it kind of just very creepy, because it almost sounds like an actual documentary of, you know, what this psycho did and why he did it and what the serial killer blah 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 blah, kind of what they've done with Ed Gein in a way. Is what you'd expect, like the guy from the Most Wanted files,
right? You
know, but it was actually really crazy.
And
they actually Gunnar Hansen was kind of treated as an outsider behind the scenes. I mean, it kind of gets that way with a lot of serial killer movies, for that matter. But yeah, he was kind of shied away from a lot of different people.
A lot of people. I mean, also some of that could be the director too, keeping him away from certain cast members. That way, when they see him in full.
Because I know they did that with Bill Skarsgård.
In full makeup or... Okay, so we've touched bases on the film a little bit, and we talked about how it opened up, and, you know, the first guy who gets whacked, as you say.
Yeah. Man, that was brutal, too.
So, what are some of your thoughts, since this is your first time seeing the film?
I mean, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. Definitely can see why it's kind of a cult classic, if they will. I can go ahead and see why it has all the iconic portrayals done and what it draws off of. I think it was a little messed up that the actors had to kind of deal with some of the conditions that they did, because apparently that summer it was 100 degrees during the entire shoot. So I mean, we've had that here in Oklahoma before, not too far away from us actually, and that sucks. It really does. And to deal with that, and then your costume being basically the same thing over and over and over, and not getting to change, not even getting it washed at all.
Maybe getting some makeup on you.
That part of the, you know, blood that they used, whatever it was, all your stuff being torn up still, that would kind of suck.
Gunnar Hansen being a heavyset guy, plus having the makeup and
wielding that chainsaw that's probably 25 pounds.
The mask, and then the heat of the tuxedo that he was under, the suit wasn't really...
And I'm sure that apron, the butcher's apron, didn't do any justice for that matter. But
so, as we're sitting here and we're trying to dissect a little bit, we're giving you some detailed, small stories about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We're giving you some of the in-depth looks, sounds. Some of these actors, you know, as we say, they didn't go through and have a star-studded cast, as you will, as it was a small, almost independent-like film. Marilyn Burns was Sally. If you remember, Marilyn Burns died just a few years ago. Yeah. A year after the 2013 remake out. She died 2014, and now she was in some of these other Chainsaw remakes, as she was Sally, obviously, in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then in The Next Generation, she was a patient on a gurney as Anonymous.
Oh, okay. Because actually, that was pretty sure that was The Next Generation, because that was right at the end of that movie, and I actually just saw the part of that last night. Okay, so yeah, and in that she, the main one is actually asked, you know, do you know that lady? And she just kind of looks at her, doesn't answer the cop or nothing, just watches her roll by, and she actually gives her a look too, like they do know each other. So it is a little odd with that ending, but that was pretty cool. That I think that's a nod back to the original.
Right. And then she played Verna and Sally in kind of surprised her role in Texas Chainsaw 3D in 2014 before she died. But this was definitely one of those movies that just really hits that classic spin on the Texas Chainsaw
So basically, yeah, with, like I was saying, with all that, no costume changes, no differences in that, it must have sucked, truthfully. But, like we said earlier, actually, they have turned it into a barbecue restaurant, which I thought was kind of funny, to be fully honest, that you can actually go through and take a small tour of the house. I don't know how extensive of the tour that it is, but and it's not too actually far away from where we are, for that matter, although Texas is a huge state, so gotta throw that in comparison. But this movie kind of gives you, because they say it's based on real event or a true story. They say it's actually a true story. Well, unfortunately, it's not a true story, but it is based on
true
events that really happened. A lot of Ed Gein stuff with, his the obsession with macabre.
Right.
Simple
And
as
I
that.
had heard something that, I don't know if it was gibberish or rumor, but I had heard something that there was a family in Texas that had gotten caught for making chili in a meat factory, and some of the meat was actually human flesh. But if anybody out there knows any kind of stories about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
we'd love to hear input. Yeah, go ahead and once this comes up, whether you're listening to like Podbean, or whether you listen to for that matter YouTube, or whenever we go on to Spotify, for that matter, go ahead, post little things. Some of you have already interacted where you're asking, like had one gentleman ask 2 weeks ago or last week, I think, about if we knew if the Samuel Loomis was in Psycho originally, and that it was a play and an ode in Halloween to have Dr. Samuel Loomis. So, we love stuff like that. We did touch on that, actually, through that. So there is that one. But, still love the interaction. Whether we've touched on it, whether we haven't, whatever you find interesting, even, that we even noted on, go ahead and, either message myself or message Johnny, message the Cine-Men podcast, moviereelz405 channel, whether YouTube, Facebook, whatever platform.
Even if you listen to us on Podbean, you can comment right there on the site when you look at Podbean. If we have any mess ups, or if we have anything that you just don't think we covered enough on, share your stories, share what you think we messed up on or what we didn't cover.
Just like, actually, I was listening to a little bit with my wife and getting her take on it, and she actually noticed the Shining episode we had, it was either the Shining or Killer Clowns episode, one of the two, that we had messed up and had said the date we were recording instead of the date that it actually was released on.
Right.
So, little stuff like that is even kind of a cool thing, as long as you're not being too hardcore on it. Some of the audio we're still kind of getting familiar with. Not professional producers yet, so hey. But definitely just let us know, anything. Like, we're getting a lot of things like people love the top 5, people like some of the movie news, love some of the facts we give, stuff like that. So just let us know anything that you think that, I don't know, we do better than anything else. Let us know anything that you think we don't do that great. Whatever it is. We're still kind of dealing with what half of Oklahoma has been dealing with the little sickness. So just please excuse that. Still almost just about over it. So yay. But definitely. We love the interaction, like we said earlier. We love for everybody just to kind of have an input. So far, seen that quite a few people actually have voted on the original versus the remake on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre poll that we put out, and so far that's awesome to see. Love that. We will be doing some decently similar stuff to that in the future. So participation would still be awesome. We appreciate every little bit of that that we can get. Basically, like, we're kind of depending on y'all to get some of the voice out there, some of the reviews, ratings, whatever you want to say.
Right, and that goes to our topic for right now, the star rating for the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. IMDb gave it a 7.5 out of 10. To me, I'm going to go ahead and do a solid 8 out of 10 for that movie. To me, as far as horror goes, you can't get any more, like, gruesome, you can't get any more horror than that. Like, it is legit the original. That's just, I can't even put it in words right now. Like, that's the original king of horror right there. Like, John Carpenter touched on Halloween, and yeah, Wes Craven did, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was original. But man, what Tobe Hooper was able to do with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and was able to get it just so, it was so gruesome for its time.
And even based on real events. I mean,
Right.
maybe not specifically a chainsaw massacre, but, real things, real murders that could
But
have
what he did was make an Ed Gein-like story, but he used so much originality.
Like, what if a family did that instead of just one person? Like, the whole family was deranged instead of just, your little brother just
Right.
because he was mad that mom took his toys away or whatever.
And then the way he put it together made it seem like it was a real story.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I still got people to this day that thought the Texas Chainsaw Massacre really happened, and that was a movie about a guy in Texas.
I mean, honestly, I've got to say, I thought it too. I always thought that Thomas Hewitt is the name I've always heard and connected to it. So I always thought for a while, until probably about 10 years ago, that it was real. But once I started learning about, like Ed Gein and what he had as influences, I guess you could say, to all these different movies. I mean, even, Buffalo Bill, probably at least 3 to 5, if not more, serial killers, psychopaths. Kind of mind-boggling and creepy how one man and his, I don't know really what I want to call it. I guess deranged habits, I guess, is the best way to describe it. Inspire.
I think that's one thing that I dislike about the other Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. Is this one, he's brutal, Leatherface is demonic, he is just straight up evil. But in, like, Next Generation, somewhat in Leatherface Chainsaw 3, and then definitely in Texas Chainsaw 2013, they almost make him seem like you want to give him sympathy.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, touching on the character of, as he's been known as Leatherface or Thomas Hewitt or whatever, truthfully, I want to touch on his first kill in this one with this little talk. If I'm walking and say one of my friends has a old family house and it's on land that is kind of out in an unpopulated area, and especially when the house is pretty much condemned, like, might as well just be torn down. And I happen across, because I'm wandering around, I happen across someone else's property, and I'm not going to go and just, knock and keep knocking and it opens, and I'm just gonna I'm not freely and gaily just gonna, like, walk into someone's I don't care if it's out in, an area, a wooded area. I don't care if it's in the city. I'm not randomly walking into someone's house. Even if I know you, I'm not
Right.
the type of person to just walk in. But this guy walks in the house, literally, and starts hearing grunting and similar animal grunts and sounds. And he just walks into, this house that has, furs, to where an experienced person who more than likely has either guns, knives, both, maybe traps, all kinds of different stuff. And I mean, these are whole, like, deer skins, whole cow skins. And I mean, don't get me wrong, that takes patience, time, skill, and just tools. I mean, you can't have any of those without the other. Simple. And then he sees cleaned, and I mean perfectly cleaned, skulls in the back of, like, steers and deers and just all kinds of stuff. I'm not wandering into that house. The second I ever, like, even if the door opened, the second I seen that, I'm back at that and saying, hey, we need to boot. We need to beat feet. We need to get up out of this place. But, you know, c'est la vie to whatever, you know.
Makes for a better movie.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
So, touching up on, you know, getting ready to wrap everything up here, you know, obviously the movie ends kind of with an opening, I guess, as you could say.
Definitely.
It doesn't show none of the family members die other than the crazy brother gets hit by the truck.
Right.
The granddaddy is still in there. The dad is still in there. And then Leatherface is just a little wound to the leg from the chainsaw after a truck driver throws a wrench at his forehead.
Yep.
And he falls back, and the chainsaw kind of gets his leg a little bit. But other than that, Sally gets away, and Leatherface is left just
kind of having a tantrum,
upset, throwing his little hissy fit.
Yep.
And then the final picture goes back to Sally, and the film ends. Kind of just, you know, shockingly dramatic,
kind of abruptly,
just end. And that's how the film goes off screen, and obviously sets it up for Texas Chainsaw Part 2, which we probably won't cover this year, or maybe any other, because it definitely doesn't live up to the first one. It is kind of brutal. It's more gory. Obviously, Texas Chainsaw had made a lot more money, so number 2 had a way bigger budget. But it is nice to touch up on some of those sequels. I always enjoyed some of the sequels to, like, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right. Oh, Dream Warriors. I mean, don't get me wrong. If anything could have, like, even amounted to anything that Nightmare 1 produced, was Dream Warriors.
Right. And then, like, Friday the 13th, we were talking about this just a little bit ago. Part 1 obviously has Mrs. Voorhees in it, and then you don't see Jason until the sequel. So the sequel for those really pick up pretty fast.
Because, I mean, you see him for, like, a quick, like, 2-second glance when he comes up out of the water to grab the last camper or whatever. But other than that, you don't see the Jason we all know and love, I guess you could say, until the last, the actual, first part of 2? Somewhere around the first part of 2. But...
So as we wrap up Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974, this...
I did have one thing. I was going to ask you if any scenes annoyed you or kind of failed. One last thing before we do wrap anything up. I was wanting to ask, like, did any of the scenes from the movie annoy you or fail to meet, like, an expectation, or just, like, weren't what kind of the movie usually was, I guess you'd say?
That's a good question. There was a lot there. The first 20 minutes probably was a little annoying just because it was a little slower.
Yeah.
But I understand that to get you familiar with the characters and to kind of get you to care a little bit more about the characters, other than to just look at them as like, oh, they're pieces of meat, as you know.
Because I mean, when Franklin, when he when Franklin rolled down the hill after he is using the bathroom, I thought that was a little weird, because how'd the truck do that?
It was kind of dumb, but I think they wanted you to get familiar with how he really couldn't walk, he couldn't help himself, and then how I think they wanted you to feel sorry for him.
Kind of a whiny character.
When his time did come, you kind of were like, oh no, he's gone.
Instead of, just this crippled guy in a wheelchair, let's feel sorry for the guy.
Other than that, I didn't really have any negative parts about the movie at all. I always enjoyed Texas Chainsaw. One of the scenes that I do like is the dinner scene. I think it is one of the most gruesome, unsettling scenes in horror
Yeah.
movie history, just because you don't really want to know what's coming next, or you don't really, at the time when you first watch it, you're just like, you know,
Anything could happen.
Anything can happen.
Literally.
What are they going to do to her? How are they going to do it to her? And is it going to show what they do to her?
Right.
So that aspect of it, I enjoyed everything about the movie. Nothing was literally unsettling to me for real, as far as like seeing anything. So yeah, I have nothing bad to say about this film. What about you? With it being your first time, other than the first slow 20 minutes, did you enjoy it?
That overall it was pretty good. The only thing, I mean, the first like 20 minutes, kind of like you were touching on, getting to know the characters and how they were interacting with each other, let alone everybody else. Because don't get me wrong, like 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, 4 out of 5, you didn't get much time with.
Right.
You really didn't. Because I think within the first like hour, everybody was dead except for Sally. Yep. So there you go. But there was one scene in particular that did kind of slightly annoy me because it kept going and kept going, and it was the scene with the it was the scene with Grandpa when they were trying to hand him the sledgehammer to hit her over the head, and you know, they're like, oh, he's the best killer ever, he's the best to do it, and you know, I mean, this guy literally looks like he's a corpse, and you know, feed him a little bit of blood from her, and all of a sudden the guy comes alive like a vampire and whatever, and then they try and hand the guy the sledgehammer, and I mean, it looks like maybe a 3.5, maybe 5 pound, but the guy can barely grip the thing, let alone swing it hard enough to kill. I mean, don't get me wrong, you might as well give it to a 3-year-old. They do the same thing. They might actually do more damage for that matter. But, you know, when the hitchhiker, I don't know if he is the crazed brother or nephew or whatever, but when he's trying to, oh, give it to me, I'll do it. And I'm just like, might as well, because he'll actually try. Then, you know, the dad, Vilmer, acts like, you know, oh, no, Grandpa must. And, you know, then you've got Leatherface trying his hardest.
That tells you right there, though, that no telling how old some of those bones in the house could have been. The killing could have went all the way back to decades, as you see.
I mean, maybe in the early 1900s.
This might have been in the 2003 movie. I can't remember, but I think it was. In the 2003 movie, they were cars from the 40s, 50s, 60s. So
I mean, if it was time current, then 60 years old, 70 years old.
And those cars were like old and broke down,
rusted, and
right? So no telling, you know, it didn't touch that kind of bases in this original movie, but no telling how long they have been doing stuff like that for.
I mean, there wasn't really a lot of rusted cars around. I think there was 1 or 2, but yeah, the one room with all the, what I'm wanting to say is feathers. And I know it was bones, of course, but, you know, the bone couch and all that, but, yeah, like you said, no telling how long those murders were going on. Because, I mean, I think that was set in, like, 72 or 73 or something like that, supposedly.
No, it was set in 74.
Oh, it was? Oh, okay.
When they were actually filming.
Time current then, but, yeah, I mean, that could have been back to the 30s, 40s, whatever, still, even then.
But I know it's, I think I touched bases on it earlier, with our star rating system now. Like I said, IMDb gave this film a 7.5 out of 10. I'm going to give it a strong 8 out of 10. For your first time watching it, what would you give it?
I'd agree with the 7.5. I mean, I think it could get an 8 too, but strong 7.5, possible 8, definitely. And I'm not just saying that, just whatever, but it's a good movie, overall good. The Grandpa scene was the only thing that I was kind of annoyed at, but that's just because it was like 12 tries and still ain't doing it. Here we go, you know. But other than that, like, I mean, you could see with Franklin's character, with the character Franklin, the wheelchair-bound brother, how he was annoyed that he couldn't have fun like the other 4 were, and maybe even that he didn't have a girl along with him. I mean, that would annoy me too. The family was just right amount of crazy, not over the top.
So it's one of those movies that, like, I mean, with you hearing everything you heard about the original, is it one of those that, like, you would definitely keep going back and rewatching, or is it just kind of not really your cup of tea? Or?
I mean, the first one I had any experience with was The Next Generation, and that one, it was just so out there, you know what I mean, that it was kind of weird as a 12, 13-year-old
right.
watching that. This one, if I had been open to this one before that, I definitely would watch this one more. And I still would watch this one, I mean, I don't know how many times a year or when, but I'd watch it several times a year. But yeah, I mean, yesterday was the first time I'd seen Next Generation is probably like 10 years. But still, yeah, definitely a good one.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre is definitely one you guys need to keep your eye on, and definitely one that you need to, if you're out at the video store, if you're out at Walmart and you find this pretty cheap, pick it up. It's something that every movie collector should add to their collection, no matter if you're a horror fan, movie fan. You know, if you just love movies, you definitely have to have this one in your library. It is a fairly cheap Blu-ray. It's not going very much, so it's definitely something you guys would want to keep and put in your
library. Just to have, yeah.
But next week, we touched bases on this just a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and do it. We were debating whether or not to do it or not, but next Friday, October 5th, we are covering all things about John Carpenter's 1978 Halloween. And this show is going to be packed full of news on Halloween 2018. It is going to be packed full of Halloween 1978 small details. This is going to be our most detailed show to date.
Definitely.
We're definitely not going to cover scene by scene like we did on our episode 1, but we are going to go through most, if not every scene. Not scene by scene, yeah, but we are going to go by pretty much everything there we can go through about Halloween. The posters, Jamie Lee Curtis, we're going to find some, I know there is some bunch of exciting small documentaries on the Halloween Blu-ray. We're going to post pictures of what Blu-ray version we're watching, what digipack we are looking at, and we're going to talk about Halloween 2018. We're going to get started and get you preset for that. We're going to talk about the 1978's original Halloween coming to 4K, which is released in a few days. We're also going to talk about John Carpenter's inspiration for Halloween, what he wanted Halloween to originally be, what kind of series he wanted Halloween to be.
Even the original name for the movie.
We're gonna talk bases on Halloween 2, Halloween 3, and like I said, get your popcorn ready, sit back and just listen, because this is going to be probably one of our longer shows. If we have to break it up into 2 sections, we will.
Definitely.
But everything Halloween will be set for October the 5th. And
so I promise you, if any episode we do, because I promise you, if any episode we do is going to be good, it's going to be this Halloween one. Like, you will not. But yeah, if you're wanting to see any of our shows or listen to any of our shows, I cannot stress enough, this Halloween episode, like, we are digging, and we are digging deep.
Especially like when we first announced that we were doing a podcast on episode 1, the only movie that we sure had planned out was going to be Halloween.
Oh yeah, because I mean, honestly, I think we've literally touched on Halloween for every single episode, at least some. That and maybe It are the 2 top ones that we've touched on every episode. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I know Halloween and, you know, It for that matter has become 2 of our favorites. Literally, I mean, Halloween for years, but It in, you know, the 1990 was good. Don't get me wrong, but the 2017 was it set the bar kind of high for the second one.
It was an actual movie, so
we'll see.
I kind of wish this new Halloween that comes out on the 19th was going to be a little bit more. I wish it had more to do with the other ones, but John Carpenter and Danny McBride have already come out and said 2 through Resurrection never happened. So, I mean, I personally might do a Halloween marathon between now and then anyway, so we'll definitely touch on some of those before October the 5th, but man, so right now as it looks, October the 5th is going to be John Carpenter's Halloween for 1978. October the 12th, we're going to talk about what haunts you in your dreams, because October 12th is going to be A Nightmare on Elm Street. And then staying with Wes Craven, October the 19th, we're going to go ahead and do the original 1996 Scream movie.
So we've got a John Carpenter bread sandwich with Wes Craven in the middle, doing the meat and the cheese, I guess you could say.
Meat and the cheese with a little bit of potato broth on top.
Uh-oh,
and then after Scream on the 19th, actually when that episode drops, we're going to go see the new Halloween movie on the 19th, and then we will present you the 2018 Halloween episode October 26th. So that is our next month right there mapped out for you.
Which, I mean, with that final October, the new Halloween show, we will put spoiler warning on there. So if you do want to see that movie, we're over a month ahead of time. We're letting you know. Spoiler warning in effect for that second Halloween movie.
Spoiler alert for October 26th, the October 26th show. So if you want to go out and watch it and come back and listen to the show with us on the 26th.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're going to try and find all the dirt we can on that little puppy. See if there's any Easter eggs for that matter. We're going to try and have our binoculars ready for that. Because apparently there is already one that we've learned of. So, not gonna give it away right now. We wanted you to smell the bait. We don't want you to nibble just yet. Not yet.
So, October 26th, 2018 Halloween. I can't wait for it. Mostly what we're going to do in November is some DC movies. We can throw up a poll. We threw up a poll for one of the other movies, I think it was a few weeks ago. And come on guys, nobody even liked it. Nobody even voted on it. Hopefully you guys vote on some more stuff and we'll let you decide the fate and map out the shows. But for now, that's what it looks like it's going to be. October the 5th, Halloween. October the 12th, Nightmare on Elm Street. October the 19th, Scream. And then October 26th, we are going to do 2018's Halloween. So, with that said, Ed, do you have any closing notes?
No, just look forward to next week's episode. Look forward to this episode. Simple as that. Because I think we're coming headstrong for these ones. Headstrong.
So, with that being said, I think we covered all of our movie news. We still are going to have some movie news during the Halloween episode next week, even though it is going to be a little bit larger show. If you want to help us decide on some top 5 for 2018 Halloween show and next week's Halloween episode, throw us some comments. What would you like for us to be our top 5? We can do top 5 Jamie Lee Curtis movies, or we can rank the Halloween movies starting from our 5th worst or our 5th best to the best.
Yeah, simple as that.
I think we all know what number 1 would be, but we can vote on those, or we can just finally vote on our 5 favorite movies to watch during the Halloween episode.
Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, on the 26th, that could that whole top 5 list could change. Don't know yet. We'll see.
It's not going to change. I'd put Halloween up there against any horror movie that I've seen. It's not going to change.
Alright.
So, that being said,
Edward Silverscreen signing out.
And I am Johnny Real, and we will see you next week when we discuss all things Halloween on the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.